Hi. Of January, the office was closed today. Thanks to Lisa and Bob for giving us an extra day. And the big news is that we may be looking at the first major storm of 2023. And who better to talk about weather than the one and only Tony Mondaro, the longtime director and founder of the Harrison Weather Station. And Tony joins us today to talk about this possible storm. Tony, Happy New Year. Welcome. Thanks for coming back.
Thanks for having us, Kevin. And yeah, it's going to be some news making with this storm over the next couple of days. And just want to try to give the people out there, our fans, just a heads up of what we're looking at over the next few days. And
So, what are we looking at? What is it? What are you expecting maybe this weekend?
well, this weekend, Kev, we got an area of low pressure that'll be moving up from the south, and usually those storms that form in the Gulf of Mexico and the Midwest, we have to be careful when they're running up the coast for snow events, especially when we have cold air in place. And cold air will be coming in here on Friday and during the day on Saturday. The big question is how's that low pressure going to track? Is it going to move right and over us, which would be maybe some snow over to rain? Will it be just offshore where it'll be more snow? Or west of us, the center of low pressure, which would be mainly a rain event. Right now, I would say that the storm does start off as a little bit of snow and could mix with some sleet and rain and even some freezing rain. So I think today what we want to do is tell everybody out there, get prepared, get ready just in case we do have a sizable snow as we get closer. On Friday, when we come back to you around the same time, we'll have a better idea of just how much snow accumulation. Now, the reason why we don't put out accumulations at this time, and we could say anything, Kevin, from 1 to 12 inches, but does that serve anybody any good? No, it really doesn't. We want to try to pinpoint snow accumulation. So when we come back Friday, we'll have a better idea. Does it have a chance to be an all rain event? At this point in time, the answer would be yes. Does it have a chance to be an all snow event? The answer would be yes. It all depends, folks, on the high pressure that's just north and east of us. That'll be anchored in here over the weekend and the way that storm tracks. So we have seen the trend for us to, over the last 24 to 48 hours, to be a little bit in the less of the heavy snow band area and more of the mixing area. So we'll refine that as in the future days ahead.
What do you make of this last couple of months? We really haven't seen anything appreciable. Really, last year was maybe one or two appreciable amounts of snow. Is there anything to this? Is this a new pattern developing, or anything like that? What's going on in the world right now?
Well, as far as the world, the weather, and the pattern, we're going through a pattern change, and that's why we're seeing more cold air now. And this storm might be a storm of a parade of storms to come over the next few weeks. So me and you may become closer friends than we are now
I
by
like
the
it.
end of by the end of February and March, because I think we will be talking a lot over the next few weeks as far as winter storms. And remember, folks, we got off easy last winter. We only had less than 3 inches of snow, about 2.7 for the seasonal average. Our usual seasonal average is about 28 inches of
Wow.
snow. I know the media throws up there our snow streak, so I did a little research this morning and went to the weather books. And the last time we had over an inch of snow here in Harrison, the Hudson County area, was last February 28th at 1.5 inches of snow, which was about 308 days from the last time we had snow. 308 days.
Is that a long stretch, generally speaking, to go in between measurable snow? 308 days.
Sure is. Usually, I can remember where we had, as a kid, going back, back to my childhood, where we were talking about, snow and sleet situations in November, and now it seems even with the trees, they don't turn and they're not all done until sometime in December. When I remember back in the day, around Halloween, the first week of November, we were done. I cut my lawn on Christmas Day. On
Imagine.
Christmas Day, I cut my lawn, so the grasses are still growing out there. So yes, it's been a trend toward warmer, and that's for sure.
I was reading your your weekly forecast this morning too, and it looks like after Monday we may be looking at some pretty mild temperatures too. Is that correct?
Right, on the heels of this. So I think whatever falls over the weekend as far as snow, it may not be around too long. But let's see what the models and guidance has for us over the next several days. And there are going to be a lot of changes over the next several days. And when I come back to you on Friday, we'll be able to start talking numbers and pinpoint exactly as far as the timing and the impacts for our area here.
For those of you who may be just joining us, Tony Mondaro is with us. He, of course, the longtime founder and director of the Harrison Weather Center. Tony, just for those who may be new, you never know, there might be somebody new here. How do the people who appreciate your weather forecast find you on social media, on the web, and things of that nature? So let everybody know how they can find you.
Thank you, Kevin. We have a website, harrisonweather.com, shameless plug. And we also have our Facebook page. Now, unfortunately, we maxed out at 5,000 people to become friends, but you can still look at the page and get the general idea. And what we try to do, folks, is not hype the weather, but try to give you exactly what we think is going to go on. It's easy for me to come on here and say, hey, look, we're going to have a blizzard on Sunday and overnight Saturday and be done with it. Where that's not the case. We're not here to scare anybody. We're here to try to get the weather patterns right for our area. And it's going to be active over the next several days. I think anybody out there who has not prepared for winter weather yet, please get prepared for it, because I think over the weekend will be our first taste of it. If it's not all snow, it will be definitely maybe enough to scrape off, maybe some salt or some calcium, whatever you guys use for your declare walks. I know the road departments we've been coordinating over the last few days, so they're ready for it. Our local towns do a phenomenal job with snow removal. The towns of Harrison, East Newark, Kearny, and of course North Arlington and Lyndhurst. Everybody in your viewing area, the road crews do a phenomenal job, including the counties as well.
They truly do. And speaking of those preparations, what kind of things would you recommend people do in anticipation of a potential storm of this nature? What's the best thing to do ahead of time?
Well, I'll tell you, you go to FEMA.gov, you go to, or do a Google search for, an emergency kit at home. God forbid the power goes out. God forbid, you need some rations. They say the supermarket's best friend at a time like this is the weatherman.
Mm-hmm.
But hey, you have to have maybe a couple of days of food and water there. Remember also your pets, as far as shelter's concerned for pets. Don't leave them outdoors during winter weather as well. Try and take care of them. And also people who you might need some outreach, some of the elderly and stuff like that, who may not be able to get to the food store and the grocery store, do outreach like that. So everything like that, being ready for the winter weather is probably the best thing you can do right now, not only for the weekend storm, but also we have several weeks of this that we're going to have to go through. And I do think that this winter, snow-wise, will be a lot worse than we did have last year. We only have 2.5 inches. You may get that just in a couple of hours on Sunday. We eclipse what we've had over the last year.
Do you think when you have a winter like we did in 2023 that it causes residents and folks out there to be a little bit too complacent, where they think, this is maybe the way it's going to be all the time now? Is that an important mindset to kind of get out of at this time of year?
Yeah, it sure is, Kevin. I frequent the local home improvement stores myself, having a home here in Harrison. And yeah, I still see a lot of snow shovels and salt and sand and snow blowers in the local home improvement stores. Now, people get caught off guard, and when they put those official watches and warnings out, which I think the earliest they can throw a watch out right now, the National Weather Service, our friends over there, would be probably later on Friday into Saturday will be watches, and then eventually, if they have to, advisories or warnings for the storm. There's numerous advisories and warnings you can throw out, anything from a winter weather advisory to a winter storm warning, and then a winter storm watch maybe as early as Friday in the afternoon.
On our way out here, why don't we tease a little bit about Friday, because we're going to regroup Friday at the same time, 1:30. What might we expect?
Well, on Friday when we come back to you, we'll be able to nail down some timing, also numbers, talk about what's going to happen post-storm, and maybe a little bit after the next week too, which I think it will be better prepared for people. From now until then, pay attention to our local Facebook site will have that, and also your favorite TV weather person. And don't forecast shop. Either stick with one person, because if you keep going from channel to channel, and resource to resource, it's going to be all kinds of different numbers and everything like that. And I'll tell you right now, I think that anybody throwing out any type of snow accumulation numbers on Tuesday for a storm coming Sunday is absolutely crazy. It's going to change, numerous times until we start to get to you guys on Friday, and we'll have some pretty concrete numbers for what we think is going to happen.
Can we backtrack before we close out here for a second? Because something you just mentioned made me think of this. I was looking at an online weather forecast that's not yours, and it said 75% chance of snow. Is that an irresponsible thing to do, to put out there 5 days ahead of a potential storm, to say there's about 75% chance you're going to get walloped?
Absolutely. Yeah, that's just clickbait and people who are looking for clicks. And I've made this known publicly and also on my website. I don't care if one person or 5,000 people click on. We just want to try to get it right, and we appreciate having relationships like this with our local media. I think it's very important. I think it's very important too to have the close relationship that we do with our Facebook friends. And I appreciate when people stop up in the street and say, "Hi, Tony, we like the weather forecast," or even constructive criticism at times. "Hey, Tony, you can do this better or that better." I think it's all for the greater good. And also, being a cooperative weather observer with the National Weather Service that I have been for as long as I have, that's very good too. So, internally, we get to talk to the folks at the National Weather Service, not being in competition, but to work with them.
Right.
But they can only do so much. And two, I want to let the people know too, before we go, that we will take a look at some of the coastal flooding issues for this next storm. And folks, we're between moon phases, and it looks like, looking at the data from Stevens Institute, and we thank Stevens for the access to their data, that all the rivers here, tidal rivers, are below flood stage. So we shouldn't have an issue with river or coastal flooding with this storm.
Well, Tony, let me just say this. I don't think I have to really qualify this at all, that we truly believe that nobody does it better than you, not just here, but anywhere in the world. And we can't thank you enough for taking time out of your day to be a part of this, and hopefully will become a more regular thing for all of us here at the Observer Live. And thank you for not only being the best, but for always getting it right. We couldn't ask for more than that. Thank you, Tony.
Thank you, Kevin. It was a pleasure being with you this afternoon.
It's always a pleasure. That's Tony Mondaro, everybody. He, of course, is the director and founder of the Harrison Weather Center. He was kind enough to join us today from the Harrison Weather Center in Harrison. And look, nobody does it better than Tony. Absolutely nobody does it better than he does. And what I think is phenomenal about it is that he just will never lead you astray. He will always keep you to the point where there's realistic expectations of what the weather might be, realistic expectations of what will not be, most importantly, and he's never going to get you out there and cause a panic, which I think is what happens a lot of times with some of these television meteorologists. They send you out there, they send people off to the stores, they get every loaf of bread and carton of eggs humanly possible, and then turns around and there's nothing really big to report when it comes to the weather. So with that in mind, nobody does it better, and we are very, very fortunate to have the relationship we do with Tony Mondaro and the Harrison Weather Center. Tony is a chief at the North Arlington EMS. He just does phenomenal work no matter where he goes. So thank you to Tony, and we're very, very grateful for him joining us today, and I think he's going to be with us again on Friday around 1 o'clock. 1:30, I take that back. Now, I just want to go through this one more time before we get to this week's news, because this was a late release from the Kearny Police Department. This is 12-year-old Jason Martinez, who was last seen this morning at 8 a.m. in the area of Kearny and Midland Avenues. Jason is 4 foot 2 inches tall, And you can see here he's got black hair. He was last seen wearing an orange sweater with a black Nike logo, gray pants with the words Lincoln School on them, and he was wearing black and red sneakers. He has not been seen since 8 o'clock this morning, and presumably he, of course, is a student at Lincoln Middle School. So if you have any idea of where his whereabouts are, the Kearny Police Department needs to hear from you right away. Call 201-998-1313, 201-998-1313, or, of course, you can also dial 911 as well. Now, before we move on, there are a bunch of people who are in the chat room. I turned off the chat for a little while, so we will say hello to everybody who is joining us today. First, Luz Rozo is here with us. Luz, good to see you. Thank you so much for logging on and being part of the broadcast today. We've got a lot of people with us today, and of course we can thank Tony for that, because Tony always makes our audience rise substantially. Carmen de Jesus, our dear friend, is here with us. Happy New Year, Carmen. All the best and all the love to you. Please give the same to our dear friend Nellie as well. It is always a pleasure to see you here. Carol Manley, our friend, is here. She's down in Bayville, so she and Mama June do not want any snow in Bayville or anywhere in South Jersey. So let's hope that is exactly what happens. Carol, it's always a pleasure to see you. Please give our love to Mama June as well. Hope you're having a good time down in the southern portion of the state. I don't know why I just kind of got slow when I said that. I wasn't my intention. Larry Hanlon is here with us as well. Good afternoon, Larry. Sorry I missed you before, but we just wanted to get through this without any distractions, so that's exactly why I haven't had a chance to put this stuff up here. Frida Goldman is with us as well. Hello, Frida. I hope you had a nice poop today at some point during the course of the day, and that is always a good thing. Bobby Crudelli, Sergeant Robert Crudelli of the Harrison Police Department, also football expert and great football writer, is here with us. Bobby has a website and blog of his own now, and he does some work for us on the side on sports items that are not connected necessarily to the towns that we cover. We love Bobby. And Bobby's son, Ian, who is, of course, a senior at North Arlington High School, is thinking about Salve Regina University in Newport, Rhode Island, which you can see I have a sign up for right there, because that is where I went to college 135 years ago. And June is here. Mama June is already here. Okay, there she is. Hello, Mama June. Good to see you as well. June Hearn, of course, is Carol's mom. And anytime we get to see her, that is always a good thing. And Barbara Condon is joining us from the mountains of the Adirondacks. So it's good to see Barbara here as well. Barbara, we miss you. Hope everything's okay over there. Tony Marinaro is here with us, too. And as if there weren't enough confusions with the Mara last names, now Tony Marinaro is here after Tony Mondaro is here. And I don't want to get any names mixed up, because I always do, because we also have Anthony Montaneri, who is, of course, a lieutenant in the Nutley Police Department, retired chief of police in East Newark. Tony Montero, not Mondaro. So, Tony, good to see you, buddy. The Devils looked pretty crappy the other night, didn't they? Now, let's see if I'm missing anybody. Our own Lisa is here with us. Lisa is probably on the road right now, somewhere in the state of Pennsylvania, driving along, coming back to Jersey. Lisa, hello, and hello to Johnny as well. And Colty, can you hear me, buddy? Hope you're having a good ride, no matter where it is that you are at this point in time. And I think I got to everybody. I hope I didn't miss anybody. I'm just going to scroll one more time. I hope that is everybody. So thank you all for joining us this afternoon. Marianne Grajewski-Muller is here with us, too. Marianne, good to see you. Thank you very much for popping in. And now I'm going to get to this week's news, but there's really two things I want to talk about. The first is that, as we have done in the last couple of years, the main story of the first edition of 2024 is a look at the most popular stories that we had online this year. So rather than bore you to death with that, I hope you will check it out in this week's edition of The Observer, which, by the way, is already available online at www.theobserver.com. You can read the PDF edition of that, the e-edition, the e-newspaper, which is on the right-hand side. If you scroll down a little bit from the top, you can see that right away, where we go over the 10 stories that were the most read this year. However, the photo that you see on the screen there with you today, Suspect Terrorism, was indeed by far the most read story in 2023. And I'm going to tell you a little backstory about that. When I first got word about this story, it was from Lisa. Lisa said, have you seen these signs? And I had seen them on Route 3 over in Secaucus. But I really didn't think too much about it. And she said, I really want you to pursue this. And she got on the horn, got in touch with the state attorney general's office, because no one had reported about these signs or why they appeared. And then from this became our most read story of 2023 on the web. And the story was also picked up by Fox News because before we had it, nobody else did. There was a press release from the state of New Jersey. The signs say, suspect terrorism, see something, say something. And, Lisa was a little bit concerned at first, as I think anybody would be. Why are these signs suddenly appearing in the middle of September? It was right around 9/11 anniversary, of course. So the story picked up a lot of steam after we first ran with it. And I'm certainly glad that we did, because at first I was a little bit skeptical about it, but it turns out that there was a lot of curiosity as to why these signs were there. And you can use your own judgment to decide whether or not you believe that it was just a time for a PSA announcement, and that the timing just right before the 22nd anniversary of 9/11 was just purely coincidental, or whether there was maybe a little bit more to that. But I don't want to get into any Oliver Stone conspiracy theories, but that's, what, you can't help it when these things just start appearing and there was no education ahead of time. The state often does that, so we're kind of used to it right now, of course, but it was the most read story of 2023. We are joined today by Daniel H. Pronti, the mayor of North Arlington. Mayor Pronti, good to see you. Mayor Pronti will be having the Borough of North Arlington's reorganization meeting at 6 p.m. on Friday, so I'm hoping to make it over there. And, of course, if you are a resident of North Arlington, or even if you're not, and you want to see how effective government works, this is where you want to go, to the North Arlington reorganization meeting Friday at Borough Hall at 6 p.m. Mayor Pronti, thank you for joining us this afternoon. It's always a pleasure to see you. Now, the second story this week that I want to get to is something that happened a week ago, and I am going to cover my mug so that you can see this better. You don't need to see me, but what you need to see is the main story today. And it is headlined, Kearny Static 6 blocked numerous raises for exempt employees. I'm going to explain to you what happened if you don't know already. The town council got together a week ago, and actually it was Wednesday because it was later in the week, and there was an ordinance on the table to increase the salaries of several exempt employees. If you hear the word exempt, it means they are non-union, okay? And of those employees, I'll just name a few of them. Pat Carpenter, who is the longtime town clerk of Kearny. Ralph Cataffi, who is the longtime recreation director in the town of Kearny. And also Joe Mastandria, who is the chief of the Kearny Fire Department. Well, don't you know, during the course of the council meeting on Wednesday of last week, when this ordinance got up for second reading, Eileen Eckel and the crew of the new Kearny Static 6 decided that they wanted to pull some names off of this ordinance, which also included offering a new salary to Lila DeCastro, who is the town assistant town clerk, and who was also the aide to the mayor. While she was the aide to Mayor Al Santos, she was never paid for the work that she did, and she did and does a substantial amount of work as the aide to the mayor. This is not the type of thing that you can even put hours on, because the truth of the matter is, when you are the aide to a mayor, your work never ends. So she spoke with Mayor Carol Jean Doyle, did Lila DeCastro, and said, yes, I think $32,000 would be a fair number for a part-time, non-salaried gig. It was a stipend. And keep in mind, she already has benefits, so there would be no additional benefits. Now, let's take a step back 5 months to July, when former interim mayor Peter Santana took over. Mr. Santana, without warning or cause, even though he doesn't need cause, fired Lila as the town's mayor's aide. He's got every right to do that. When you are the mayor's aide, you serve at the leisure and for the pleasure of the sitting mayor. Whoever that mayor is, they get to appoint who their aide is. And Santana, for whatever reason, decided to fire perhaps the greatest institution in the town of Kearny, the woman who knew just about everything that goes on in every facet and every aspect of what happens in Kearny. This was not really a big deal, though, based on the reaction to Lila's unceremonious dismissal, because he replaced Lila with a woman by the name of Vanessa de Cruz. And Vanessa's salary was $23.98 per hour. She was paid hourly for whatever reason. But if you take the salary that Vanessa was making and you spread it out over a 40-hour work week, over a 52-week work week, the salary that Vanessa would have received for being the aide to the mayor was $56,000 per year. And that did not include the benefits, because since she was a full-time employee, she was also entitled to receive a significant package of benefits. I don't know what the amount was that she would have made in the benefits package, but let's just say this: the state benefits plan is very good, and she was getting a very, very good plan at the time. So when Mayor Santana, former Mayor Santana, appointed her, very little was made of this. She took over. She had her job. There was no problems. They passed a resolution to pay her the money that amounted to $56,000 a year. But she was full-time in that position. She didn't have to split her time the way Lila does between the clerk's office and the mayor's office. Now, regardless of that, when Vanessa was appointed to the position in July, there was a very little made about it. Very little was made about her being put in this position, and the simple fact that one of the finest and most loyal employees in the history of Kearny was fired the way she was. Nobody even had the decency to tell her. She had to find out third hand. So that was even, let's not get into that. But the bottom line was that nobody of the Static Six, there weren't six of them then, they were the Fab Five back then, but now they're the Static Six because they cling together, as I said in my story, like socks out of a clothes dryer, and basically don't have a thought of their own and just do whatever it is that whoever's doing the puppeteering tells them to do, whether that's Silver Kerry or Al Santos. Let your minds wander, but it's got to be one of them, because there's no doubt in my mind that none of them have the ability to do this on their own. Here's the bottom line. When that happened with Vanessa, nobody said a word, including the current mayor, Carol Jean Doyle. Nobody said a word, including Councilman Jerry Facito and Lila DeCastro, whose sister was canned unceremoniously, all right? Now fast forward to Wednesday, and the idea was that there was going to be a salary was going to be put on how much money Lila makes as the mayor's aide. Now, all of a sudden, there's these questions that come out of nowhere. Well, what am I going to do if I can't explain to the people how she's being paid or what kind of hours she has to work? Well, guess what? Eileen, in case you missed it, during the mayoralty of Al Santos, she's going to be doing the same thing now that she did from whatever year it was until 2023, when Al Santos resigned to become a judge. None of those duties are any more, well, they're probably more, because now that Carol Jean Doyle is the mayor, there's probably going to be a lot more to do, okay? So, all of a sudden, the Static Six decide that there's not enough information out there as to what it is that Lila DeCastro does to earn $32,000 a year. And after all, up until now, she wasn't even getting paid anything to work all these hours. I mean, could you imagine that? I don't know how that ever happened, that for all those years, 20 years or however many it was, that Lila was the aide to the mayor, that she wasn't getting paid. But that's the kind of woman she is. She was willing to take on that extra duty to be Al Santos's aide and not get paid an additional penny. And then Eileen Eckel and the Static Six decide that it's a big deal, then they need to know what she does. Well, I'm going to tell you something, folks. They know what she does because she's done it for 2 decades. They know very, very well what she does. And they know very well that in a $32,000 a year stipend, they are getting an absolute and utter bargain for the work that Lila performs. She knows everyone. She knows when every date is coming up. She knows when to schedule meetings. She knows it all. And for them to get up at that meeting and vote no to give her the salary, and Chief Mastandria and Pat Carpenter and Ralph Gattaffe the raises that were agreed upon, is disingenuous. They are lying to you if they say it's not personal. It is deeply personal. And let us not forget, these are the same people who backed a candidate who just a couple of months ago came in 3rd place in the election. When the people got to the voting booth on November the 7th, they said, this is what we want. And now the Static Six, whoever they seem to be that day, have decided that they know better than the people who went to the polls on election day. And they have said F you to every single person who voted in that election for the direction the town is going in right now. They didn't vote for disunity, but they got it. They voted for somebody who was going to lead and do a great job. And instead, these buffoons have gone out and have created this utter mess. Anybody who thinks that this disunity and this nonsense is coming from anywhere but the Static Six is not paying attention. Because the polls don't lie. The polls showed a 300-plus vote victory for Mayor Doyle. When she won, and that was the direction that they wanted the town to go in. No more Hudson County politics. No more of this nonsense. But this is the direction that the Static Six have decided to take. It is unfair, it is wrong, and it is completely disingenuous when they go out there and they say that this is anything but personal, because it is 100% personal. And here's the other thing, too. You've got people on this council who are voting no for raises to these salaries who don't even know who the people are who they're voting no for. They voted no on giving a raise to the chief of the fire department. They voted no on giving a raise to the town clerk. They voted no to giving Ralph Gattaffe a raise. They voted no on giving a stipend to Lila. They don't even know who these people are, but they're voting no. They're voting no. So, you want to know how they know to vote no? Because somebody told them to vote no. And when somebody tells you to vote no, this is what happens. And I don't know who the person is who is saying vote no for sure. But as I mentioned, I have my suspicions, and I believe in my heart of hearts that it's coming down the line from Sue McCurry. It's coming down the line from Al Santos, the former mayor, and I couldn't be more disappointed. I really couldn't. I really couldn't. And anybody who's out here and is going to say that I'm pontificating or saying things that this is opinion, I'm just observing, okay? I'm seeing what I see. It does not require a genius to figure out when things are amok, and this is a situation that is fully amok, and it really is a disappointment. And they better get their acts together fast, because if this continues for 2 years, do you know, number one, we're going to be the laughing stock of the state of New Jersey, not just Hudson County. Nothing's going to get done. Nothing's going to get done. And they're going to continue to do whatever the hell they want, and they don't have the mandate to do that. They do not have the mandate to do that. But that's where it stands right now. So when you see what's going on here, if you watched that council meeting last week, you would have been preached to like I've never seen it before. I couldn't believe what I was seeing. It is horrible, folks. And it is unfortunate that a good person like Lila DeCastro, who is looking for a small stipend to do at least another 40 hours of work on top of her other 40 hours of work, couldn't get paid. And here's the other thing you got to realize, too. I hope you all realize this. Because they didn't approve these raises for Joe and for Ralph and for Pat and for Lila, it's going to be months before this happens, because they have to reintroduce the ordinance. They have to publish it. They have to have a second reading and publish that, and then have a hearing on it. So we're looking at maybe March by the time these raises finally go through. And they're minuscule raises for the most part. They were tiny. They were not big. They weren't asking for much. Okay, so I don't know where this all came from. Maybe Eckel doesn't think that the fire chief got enough of a raise. Well, she certainly didn't say that, but she made it seem like something else was completely up. So instead of just being honest, they had to go take this whole thing and make a complete mess out of it. But that's where it stands right now. And a good person like Lila and Pat Carpenter and Ralph Cataffi and Joe Mastandria are without their raises. So Merry Christmas to you too. Thank you very much for doing this and for making a complete mockery out of the situation by saying it's about the number of hours that Lila DeCastro works. You know very well how many hours she works, and you know very well she works them diligently each and every week. It is 10 minutes after 2. Kevin Canessa here with you on the Observer Live. That's going to do it for this edition of the Observer Live. There's a whole bunch of people who I didn't get a chance to say hello to, so let me do that right now. First, Manny Ventoso is here with us. Manny, good to see you. There were a bunch of comments in the chat room as well from Larry Hanlon and from Carol Manley, so you can check those out as well. Melanie Ryan is also here with us today. Melanie, I hope you're feeling better. I know you weren't feeling so well earlier this week, and I hope you are feeling much better. Please get better and do better and feel better. Kenny Evans is here with us too. Kenny, thank you. I will continue to keep saying what I see, because this is a very, very unfortunate situation, what you see here. Good people are getting screwed because of politics, and it is horrible. Kenny, hope you're doing well. Happy New Year, brother. Good to see you. And Ed Shea is also here with us. Ed, thank you, buddy. You are probably at the office now, or maybe you're home. I'm not sure where it is. Ed, Happy New Year to you and to the whole family. It is always good to see you, Ed. Thank you very much. Now, couple of housekeeping items. Don't forget, in our classified section, 2 pages. We will, the town reorganization meeting is coming up this week. We'll have that covered. I plan to take a few Xanax before going, so that in case there are any shenanigans, I'm not really going to do that, folks. Just keep that in mind, but we may need it. Hope you're all in tune for that. So check all that stuff out. We will bring everything to you as we know about it. And if there's more to update on this situation or anything else, we will, of course, bring it to you live. And one last thing on the way out here, again, one last time, this is Jason Martinez. If you have seen him, he has been missing. Please be sure to reach out. Thank you. All right, from the home studio today, Kevin Canessa signing off, and we hope to see you back here again very soon. Take care, everybody.